Hey guys, Ramble time. Sorry it's been more than a week since I've checked in with you guys. Plenty of reasons. It was my finals for my graduate program. By the way, I still have a 4.0. And yeah, I also trimmed the bottom part of my beard off, and I don't like the way that it looks. I kind of feel like I made myself look a little bit closer to Ethan from H3H3 Productions, and I'm just not liking the look. No diss to him, but you know, I'm me, he's him. Anyways, there's a bit on my mind. I wanted to share a lot of things with you guys. Part of the reason why I did not post for more than a week, besides just the sprawl to get everything done at the end of a school semester, is I have some projects on the back burner that I'm working on that they kind of take up my attention in a way where I cannot put out daily content to you guys while I'm working on each of these things. My mind is on these things. The fact that they're not completed, to me, just it takes away my voice, really. I've got a pseudo-scientific experiment that I'm engaging in on TikTok right now that the first results from it are definitely fun. There was a video that Misty and I shot a couple of weeks ago that I've been trying to find a way to present what happened that day to you guys, but I think I decided to wait until all of the snow in the area thaws. And I have a reason for that. But basically, there was a snowstorm that came through, a late May snowstorm, you know. And I'm like, well, God damn it. Here I am waiting for the snow to thaw here in Colorado, and more of it happens, you know. But I really can't, in good conscience, finish that video until the snow has thawed. It is a very heavy video, and yeah, you'll know what I was talking about in this video when it comes out. You'll be like, oh, that's why, because I will reference this video. Okay. So other than that, I wanted to make another grad school vlog about what I'm going through, my journey, as it were, and some of the thoughts that have come through my head. And you guys know, those of you who have followed me from the beginning, this is a channel devoted to my journey in America as a non-religious person, you know. That's how it started, and the theme keeps on popping up in my life. And so, in my studies, I had to do a lot of blog posting, basically, discussion thread posting. There were requirements in all of my classes that I had to log on to a computer at least 3 times a week and reply to so many discussion posts from so many other people, and keep the conversation going. And really, if you can do Facebook, you can do grad school. It's school has changed each time I go back, you know. I went, between my high school and my undergrad degree, there was 10 years time. And then between my undergrad degree and now, there was another 10 years. And I can say that I've experienced the American education system, in its various forms over a span of almost 3 decades now. If you're going to count my elementary school time, a little bit more than that. But, yeah. When I was in elementary school, there were chalkboards. Now there are either projectors or there are special smart screens that you can actually touch. And, touch screens up on the wall. Dry erase boards came around after I left high school. They were not in wide use while I was in high school. So it's like I've seen this evolution of school, right? And I feel like when I'm in these discussion threads, in these online forums that you would have to be in, whether you are taking the class online or even if you're going to the class in person, as a traditional student in a classroom, there are still requirements to go to these discussion threads online and post. And a good portion of your grade is dependent on, are you really engaging with the course material in your posts? And so I really feel like if you can do Facebook, you can do school. Just take all that drama and bullshit that you were doing on Facebook and just apply it to your schoolwork in those discussion threads, and you will get an A, just like I did. It's amazing how it seems like it's tailored to kids that grew up with smartphones in their hands. I'm blown away by how easy it is for me, coming from a different environment, education-wise, to maintain a 4.0. Because I'm up against a lot of flakes. I don't mean like snowflakes like they have feelings. I mean like they're flaky people. How is it that I can, be in the running for at least salutatorian? It's because everybody else has brought down the expectations of what people are supposed to put forth in schoolwork, And I've had some really good talks with a lot of people, but what my mind has been like dwelling on in the past 2 weeks since I last posted with you guys is kind of an overarching feeling that I'm seeing people hiding their woo. I'm in a graduate program for counseling, to be a psychotherapist, right? And what I see creeping into some of these discussion threads, some of them, about personal subjects, I see that there are a lot of people who do not come from my non-religious background, and it's caused me to, look at, my clientele in the future are probably, the majority of them, going to have a really magical worldview compared to my own, And, of course, I have to be able to meet them where they're at in that respect and not push my own worldview on them. But more and more, as I look at the techniques that I am being taught, which, sometimes give lip service to a spiritual component, that spirituality is important sometimes, they never go much further than that. It's like, spirituality is important. And to me, no, it is not, for me. But I understand that for some clients, it's going to be something that they're not going to be able to wrap their head around if I am not friendly to their worldview. Which is a departure from all of the years of me being on YouTube and being party to and just watching a lot of ponage of people's worldviews. You know, I have to be ready to serve a community where at least more than half of them are going to have those sort of views about the world that I don't have. And I take comfort in the fact that I know that the demographic that I'm a part of, the non-religious worldview, is growing, and they're going to need a lot more professionals, like me, who would not condemn somebody for not being religious and would not force someone to, well, maybe explore that spiritual side of yourself, and maybe that's the reason why you're not healing. Ugh, words I'm never going to want to say to someone. And I've come across some particular research that I just found fascinating, in that more people, in the U.S. in particular, more people have paid for the services of a psychic than have paid for and gone to the services of a psychotherapist. Year after year, right? And also, those people who get services from a psychic, often they rate their experience with that psychic as being better, especially the therapeutic relationship that they have with the practitioner. And I've seen this in multiple studies. And the reasons behind it that a lot of the studies cite say that it's because it's two-pronged. There's two reasons for this. That people would rate their experiences with a psychic better than a psychotherapist. The first is that the psychic shared their worldview, which is not the worldview that I have, and that is the worldview that there are magical things outside of our observable reality. Things at play that are a higher power, the interconnectedness of things in a magical sense. And so the people who go to psychics and pay for their services, they, of course, are the people who believe that those things could be something that works. They might have some efficacy because that's part of their worldview. If you are a skeptic, you're probably not going to be paying for those sorts of services. So the rate isn't tainted with a bunch of skeptics who didn't like the service that they got because, oh, well, this person believes in magic. Well, no, those people don't go there in the first place. But both types of people would go to see, perhaps, a psychotherapist. And I've run into another bit of research that was done that said that more than half of people who go to see a psychotherapist, they either don't even make it to the first appointment, or they do one appointment and then they decide not to go back. And it just leaves me to wonder, well, where are they going? Well, maybe a psychic, maybe a priest, their minister, their pastor, maybe friends, but maybe even they're instead of doing talk therapy, they're going to a psychiatrist and just getting a drug to handle it that way, because People want things now, 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 and there's a new drug every week, right? Yeah. On top of all of this, one class in particular that I had this past semester basically went through a history of psychotherapy, starting with Freud, then Adler, then, on through other people like Carl Rogers and William Glasser, and, just basically every school of psychotherapy from its inception to present day. And I already made a video on this where I got to chapter 12, I think it was, and it was feminist therapy. And of course, their definition of feminist is a lot like what has come about in the great YouTube SJW versus shitlord wars, that feminists are actually very intersectional, and feminist goals include a lot of things that don't have anything to do about women. It's just called feminism, but it's actually a very egalitarian thing. It's, they fight for anyone who's oppressed in any demographic sense, right? And I looked at that chapter and I was like, well, my personal walk through life, where I went to school and got my undergrad degree in psychology, had another chapter in between all of that. Before that SJW versus shitlord war on YouTube, there was the atheists versus the theists that really boiled over. And I noticed that even in my textbook, there is not any lip service given to the fact that, an atheist would have a very different worldview and maybe need a different sort of care, that it was, more rooted in empiricism than somebody who had a magical worldview. And I almost feel like I want to go visit the person who wrote the textbook, very famous psychotherapist, Corey, by the way. He's written a lot of books. And I want to just ask him personally, like, what are your personal religious convictions? And how did they affect the way that you edited your own book? Because it seems like there's a very big component of the world as we know it missing from this book. Between chapter 11 and chapter 12 being feminist therapy, chapter 11 I think was postmodern approaches, right? Between those two, I really felt like there should have been, hey, and by the way, a growing number of people need therapy that can, take into account the fact that they don't believe in anybody else's gods. And they are, much like, the feminist theory would point out that, people who are LGBT get a sort of PTSD from all of the discrimination that they would face growing up that way. There is a similar, a parallel thing that goes on when you are non-religious and you live in a very religious community. And nothing. Psh, zip. I'm not seeing anything about this in my texts. In fact, when I come across the research that I'm looking at, a lot of them say that the reason why psychotherapy has lost its magic is because we're speaking in very scientific terms, and we're coming at people with technique that does not suit them, that it doesn't speak to their worldview. In fact, it looks down upon their worldview as superstitions. And so a lot of big thinkers and speakers in the psychotherapy world are actually advocating for us to be more inclusive of people's religious beliefs. And not only that, starting with when you meet a client that has different religious beliefs, explore their beliefs, and then immerse yourself into them so that you can have a more genuine contact with them. And, I don't know how genuine of an experience that would be if you still were yourself and not basically the amalgamation of any clients you were seeing at the time. But I really feel like I'm never going to want to see crystal healing as a side practice within the same clinic that I would be a part of. I never want to see Reiki. I never want to see a lot of different things, because there are some people who would go along with the superstition of their clients because the outcomes are what they value the most. They want their clients to feel healed, right? And I have a different approach in that while I do want the client to be happy with the therapy that they got, I don't want to lie to them. And I'm left feeling about a lot of the therapists that are on talk circuits right now promoting the idea of integrating spiritual practices into their clinics. I'm left thinking that they are just as bad as the faith healers that everyone in the skeptic community hates, because they know that they themselves do not believe the things that they are entertaining. They are just giving the people what they want, quote unquote, in order to attract more clients to their practice and make more money. And I don't want to do it. Luckily for me, there are plenty of places that exclusively run on evidence-based practice, and I don't feel like I'm going to be out of work at all. I have a place that I work at right now that is incredible in that respect, and there are some others that I'm meeting in the field, in my grad school, and just at my job that give me a lot of hope for the future of what I want as my profession. But I still feel like there's some ground that I need to navigate as far as how tolerant of other people's beliefs do you have to be in order to give them help, especially when it could be that your perspective is what would help them out, but your perspective pressed upon them might be seen by some as you proselytizing or pushing your views off onto a client. That might be why Some clients are far more inclined to go see a psychic or a medium, or a faith healer than they would a psychotherapist, because they don't want their worldview to come across science. They don't want their worldview picked apart. They don't want to find out that the reason why they are suffering with some aspects of their life is because their perspective is based on some faulty reasoning from their religious beliefs or their spiritual beliefs, That's it for today. I'm going to get back to what I'm doing. And hopefully next time you see me, I won't have this rounded chin. God damn it. Fucking H3 chin.